Hello, I am Elijah Armstrong, a lighter skinned black male with shorter locks, wearing a black t shirt, and this is one of our 2022-2023 Heumann-Armstrong Award videos. For those of you who don't know, the Heumann-Armstrong Award is an education award for students in the 6th grade and up, including all forms of higher education, who've experienced and fought against ableism in education. Each one of our 6 winners receives a $1,000 monetary award, and we also shoot a video with them to give them a chance to tell their stories, and this is one of those videos. So we are really glad to introduce you to Heumann-Armstrong Award winner, Sarit Cahana. On screen now are the logos for all 4 organizations: the American Association of People with Disabilities, the Quello Center, Equal Opportunities for Students, and Esquire Bank. On screen now is the logo for the Heumann-Armstrong Award and white text on a gray background that reads Present 2022-2023 Heumann-Armstrong Award winner Sarit Cahana, illustrated by Access Gallery.
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Sarit Cahana. I use she, her pronouns. And I am a white woman with long brown hair that dyed green in the front. There's also a little bit of pink dyed underneath, which is something new that I'm trying out.
A photo of Sarit. Sarit is a young white and Jewish woman smiling at a beach. She has long brown hair that is dyed green in the front. Her hair blows to the left from the wind at the beach. One of her hearing aids is slightly visible as her hair blows away from it. She wears a multicolored jacket over a green sweater.
And I'm wearing a green turtleneck sweater today, and I have just a white wall behind me.
An illustration of Sarit in the same position.
I am from Portland, Oregon, but I recently moved to Brooklyn, New York, and I go to City University of New York, School of Professional Studies, and I'm actually getting my master's in disability studies, so I'm in graduate school.
An illustration of the City University of New York campus.
So I am hard of hearing, and the way that I like to describe it is, I think a lot of the time people think of being deaf or hard of hearing as like a light switch that either you can hear everything or you hear nothing. But the way I'd like to describe myself being hard of hearing is if there's a dimmer switch that changes based on the situation. So it's more of a fluid spectrum kind of visual.
A series of light switches.
And so that can depend on the environment that I'm in, who I'm talking to. Maybe I have a cold that day, which makes it hard for me to hear. All kinds of things can affect where that dimmer switch is kind of on the spectrum. When the oven is ready, it usually has an auditory notification. Subway notifications are usually auditory as well. And so that's kind of a general overview of how it affects me. And then in school information is usually given in an auditory format. And so it affects the physical information that I'm taking in schools. And also in my undergraduate, I had a lot of discussion classes. So I didn't just have to think about my teacher. I also had to think about how my fellow classmates were communicating information as well.
Sarit struggling to hear in a class discussion.
Yeah, so um, I like school a lot. I've always been uh, a big school nerd. And currently, I go to school online, so it allows me a lot of flexibility in my life, which is great. And currently, I'm in the disability club on campus, which is called the Disability and Access Coalition. I feel very lucky that I'm able to study disability studies in general. Um, it's definitely not something that everybody can do, and yeah, I feel very grateful.
Sarit going to a disability club meeting.
And when I really think about my own experience of ableism in school, the first thing that comes to mind is when um, I was told to sign away my individualized education plan when I was in high school. Um, and I was a junior in high school, so I spent my senior year without any kind of protections in school, and that made me realize just how important those protections were, and also even when I did have those protections, that a lot of the time my individualized education plan was really ignored and seen as optional.
Sarit being forced to sign a paper.
And I think that's for many reasons, but one of those is that I pass as non-disabled in a lot of ways. I currently, have my hair down, and so you can't see my hearing aids. And I have pretty clear speech because I went through speech therapy. And so it's not always obvious when I don't hear. But in schools, I spent a lot of time not being able to hear, um, and um, and yeah, so that was very difficult, and that happened pretty much throughout my educational experience. That happened when I was in college as well. Um, my accommodation needs changes depending on the situation. So that can look like um, if there's a discussion, to make sure that it's in a circular format so that I can see people's faces as well. Um, if it's just one person talking, making sure that I'm sat in the front of the room. I also have a microphone that I use called a Roger pen that I'm using right now. It looks like this. It looks like a little pen it's currently on a stand. So, and it has a lanyard attached to it so people can wear it. Um, and so sometimes I would have my teachers wear that or use that, or pass it around. And
Sarit's professors using a microphone.
so really the challenges were just making sure that my teachers were actually doing what was in the individualized education plan when I was in high school, and in my accommodations letter when I was in college. That required me to do a lot of education for my teachers and professors, really reinforcing things with them and following up with my case managers in the accessibility offices, and trying to come up with as many solutions as I could. And that's a lot of work on top of just being a student in general. So I think a lot of people don't realize that when you are a disabled student, that can often be a full-time job because you have to put in so much work just to be able to be in the classroom itself. And so an example of this is after I lost my individualized education plan and I was a senior in high school, I was sat in the back of the classroom, and that day my teacher decided to teach the class through a video that she had made of herself writing with her hands. So I wasn't able to lip read, which is something that I use as a tool. And the video was very quiet. And I was in the back of the classroom with a lot of students. And so all of that combined basically meant that I missed the entire lesson to a class that I attended.
Sarit struggling to understand a video.
And that happened throughout my educational career. And that basically means I have to do a lot of extra work to catch up, to teach myself. And it's also a waste of my time, right? To just be sitting in a class where I can't hear and I'm not getting the lesson. When I was younger, I didn't realize how much work just went into, getting me and people like me the right to be able to even go to school and get accommodations. I took that for granted at the time because I didn't know the history. And learning the history and learning just what went into making all of those things happen has made me think a lot about, what am I going to pass on as well? And what are we all teaching each other, those of us who are in this movement right now?
An illustration of the Capitol crawl.
So that's something that has been really important for me from learning about the history. And something that I really appreciate about disability justice is that it recognizes that we all rise together and we don't, pick and choose who gets to have rights and justice and who doesn't, and noting that all of our movements are so interconnected that we really do need to work together to achieve all of our goals. Even reading Eli Clare, seeing Chellamand's TED Talk for the first time, that really helped me with my own identity as well. And so, there are just endless people that I look up to and who have formed my belief system and my work as well.
Chellamand's TED Talk.
And just a group I would love to shout out is American Association of People with Disabilities. I did my very first internship with them back in the day, and then I was also part of their summer internship program, and they've been very, very supportive. So I very much appreciate it.
An illustration of AAPD's summer internship program.
Yeah, my work really started in high school. I really had that slow realization that I deserved better in the way that people were treating me in regard to my disability. And then that helped me kind of look around to notice this is also happening to so many other people. And then when I got to college, I founded the Disabled Student Union with the help of some wonderful seniors at the time. I was a freshman. The Disabled Student Union, we focused on, and I was also I founded the Disabled Student Union, and I was the president until I graduated.
Sarit founding the Disabled Student Union.
So I focused a lot on making classrooms accessible. So I worked with the administration and the dean of students on that. And then we also did other things our college was on a hill. It's literally on a hill. And so that poses a lot of accessibility issues. And so we worked on getting an elevator in our main student building. We worked on having student accessibility for clubs and student activities.
Sarit at the bottom of a steep hill.
One of the big projects that I worked on is that I taught a workshop with the director of the Student Accessibility Office, and we led a workshop for staff and faculty on creating accessible spaces. And I had actually one of my professors at the time tell me that that changed the way that she taught. And I think that that kind of impact is really important because, now she is really implementing accessibility and really thinking about that in her classrooms. And that means that other students who come in will feel comfortable and at home in that space. So I think that that kind of impact is also really important. One, I think really, going back to disability justice, that you can't change one piece of the education system on its own. I believe that you really have to work with many different movements at the same time, and recognizing that people with disabilities belong to all kinds of groups and identities. And so we don't need to be leaving anyone behind, because that doesn't benefit anyone. And so I think that special education needs to be integrated with mainstream education, that it shouldn't be a separate entity. We need to make sure that, budgets show our values, and that money is going for accessibility. Money is a big tool to make accessibility happen. And then, movements happen from the bottom up, but those at the top need to value it as well. So the administration has to make sure that all of these changes are actually happening, and making sure that people are getting the resources they need to make them happen.
Sarit working with a diverse group of activists.
Are with it. There's nothing that you could ask for that is too much or too burdensome. It's really typical that schools make us feel that way. And that's not the case, and you have every right to fight for what you need. And then the second piece of advice I would have to students going through the educational system is to, as much as you can, find your disability community. Sometimes that's not easy, but it is really helpful to be with people who get it, who you don't have to explain yourself to.
Sarit standing on a stage, encouraging younger students. Thank you, Sarit, for sharing your story with us. If you want to hear more from Sarit or any of the other orgs that came together to allow this award to happen, please check in the description of this video, where you'll be able to hear from all of us. There are also 5 other winners of the Heumann-Armstrong Award this year, as well as 6 winners from last year who all have videos out, so please check those out as well. Lead on, everyone. Lead on.